Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM 106.3. It's great to welcome back the Mayor of the Kapiti Coast, Mayor K.Gurunathan. Welcome to you.
Thank you, John. Thank you to the listeners.
Lovely to talk to you, and great to see you seem to be getting out and about a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, it's really good, isn't it? After the many months, many weeks of lockdown and being unable to get around, suddenly you have a tsunami of appointments.
Are the appointments sort of pent up from the lockdown? Do you think that they've been conspiring?
Some of them are. Yes.
And what have you been doing recently?
Oh, yesterday I had two that I had to attend to. The first one was the installation of Dr. Mark Harris as the new Vicar of Waikanae Parrish. That was really interesting because he was officiated by the Bishop of Wellington, the Right Reverend Justin Duckworth. Now, everybody knows, a lot of people know the Reverend Justin Duckworth. He's got dreadlocks and goes barefooted.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. There was a very strong presence by the Parata family at church. There is a reason for this, and this was highlighted during the installation by the Right Reverend Justin Duckworth. And this is in the church. If you go into the church, there's a stained glass window above the altar area, which also commemorates the personage of Wilmo T. Kakukura, also known as V. Parata. He was an MP in those days. Now, he's famous for one of the things that he took the case against the Bishop of Wellington back in October 1877. So remember this. Here, yesterday, we have the Bishop of Wellington, the new Bishop of Wellington,
yes,
Justin Duckworth, and he's in a church that has commemorates Wilmo Kakukura.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back in October 1987, the court case was between the V. Parata against the Bishop of then Wellington. It was over a block of land gifted to the Anglican Church for a school, gifted by a local Maori. The school was never built, and years later, somehow or other, the government made that into a crown grant to the church. And this was challenged in court. And this is the judgment of Chief Justice Paekakariki at the time, which became infamous later on. And this is what he said. The court could not consider a claim on land based on native title.
Wow.
The Treaty of Waitangi was worthless because it had been signed between, and I quote, a civilized nation and a group of savages.
Goodness.
He said, since the treaty was not incorporated into domestic law, it was a simple nullity.
My God.
So this is unthinkable. Right? Now, the link to Kapiti Coast is because Wilmo Parata was Rangatira in Waikanae.
Yes.
And he gifted the land where the Waikanae township sits, where the railway line is, where the railway station is, where the church is, where the main street is. And we know 2 years ago that there was an attempt as part of the renaming of the State Highway 1 exercise in terms of revocation of the State Highway into local roads. And locally we had wanted that main street to be named Kakukura.
Yes.
And there was huge objection. So the land was gifted by him, and people don't realize the history behind that. They want to keep the name as Waikanae Main Street. So I found yesterday's session, the installation of the new vicar, to be quite an interesting exercise.
I can see that.
Because there is a graveyard next to the church, and V. Parata is actually buried there.
The Parata family, hugely significant, no doubt about that. And the Parata family have been enormously generous to our communities over the years, and we owe them a great debt of gratitude. Getting back to the renaming of what some people would like to call the main road still, don't think it was so much that section that people were raising objections to. I think it was the 7 names for the highway. I think it was just too much for people to cope with at the time.
I think it's just having 7 names also is multiple objections on different sections accumulates into the total objection.
Yes.
If you understand what I'm saying.
I do know. I think you're exactly right, yes.
And therefore, but if you take each section by itself, what's the history of main road Waikanae against a history of this person's name, Kakapura? It's just... Yeah, I think it's just because people don't know the history. And I know that in the last year there's been a huge debate about teaching the history in primary schools in terms of not the colonial history alone, that's important, but also the indigenous history as what happened in the interface between those two cultures.
Yes.
If that sort of history has been taught, then I think we would be better off in terms of understanding exactly who we are and how did we get to where we are today.
I think that perhaps we need a public education campaign. But where are we with the revocation exercise? I believe it's getting back into action after the lockdown period.
Yeah, the work needs to be done before it is formally revocated to local council ownership. And my understanding is it won't be finished until about March next year.
And do we have to sort out the names by March of next year?
I think so. I mean, because there's no use having coming to the date and then finding that we are still caught and council hasn't made a decision. And it's interesting because it was the previous council, last triennium, that got into this exercise, and then it'll be up to this current council to whatever happens.
Indeed. Well, perhaps your public relations department and council have got a bit of work to do in terms of teaching us the history and explaining the rationale of those names. But I think you have got a bit of a steep hill. I think that people are going to be reluctant. Yes.
That's part and parcel of... That's why when the initial issue came up, I said the issue of the revocation and the names associated with it is not peculiar to Kapiti because this is a national debate. It's part of a national debate. And in recent weeks, in recent months, it has become more acute because it's become a global debate.
Indeed. And of course, we've got the historic monuments issue around the place at the moment. What's your view on the statue of Te Rauparaha at Otaki?
Well, that's interesting because there are issues, comments on his past, not a salubrious past, and therefore we shouldn't be commemorating him either. But that's a discussion for the local Iwi, and I can't see the local Iwi moving on that one.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And it does bring out the fact that we have got a rich and vibrant history in this, along the Kapiti coast, actually. It's just redolent and fantastic stories and fantastic characters, of which Te Rauparaha would be right up there, by the way, because quite apart from the warmongering that he no doubt took in stride, and that was where he made his name. But he was also a fascinating and, on occasions, I believe, delightful character as well. So he was a colourful one, no doubt about that.
Absolutely. Kapiti Island, which is this is our district icon, and that was his stronghold.
Yes, indeed. And just across from Kapiti Island is a place called Paekakariki. I believe you went to a bubble party.
Oh yeah, it's breakout the bubble party. This is a peculiar Paekakariki way of celebrating things, and so this was in the sense of thanking all those people who have contributed, volunteer work during the lockdown. Yes. And it was a fascinating exercise because I think you might have handed out about 40 to 50 certificates of appreciation.
Oh,
you must understand that Paekakariki is a village. Yes. About 1,700 people live there.
Yes.
And therefore I just love the place because people are, they interface between all of them, and there are so many groups doing so many different things. Volunteers, the essential workers, the businesses were also recognized. They had music, they had soup kitchen, bread given out. There was dancing. It was fantastic. And the breaking out your bubble. But I did remind them, Philip, you might be all right to break out of your own bubble, but don't forget the whole country is in a bubble.
Yes. Yes, indeed. We're not through this yet, are we? You did right about Paekakariki. It certainly is an extraordinary place with wonderful characters and punches way above its weight. And we look forward to hearing more about that and other delightful happenings along the Kapiti coast. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mayor of the Kapiti Coast Guru. Thank you.
Thank you.
106.3 Beach FM.